All right, so if we take a look at this example, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be dividing a rational expression by a monomial, which means we're going to take a polynomial in the numerator and we're going to divide it by just one term in the denominator. And we're going to show you the steps on how you would go and do that. An example that this might look like is something such as this. You've got your trinomial in the numerator, so 3 terms, 3x squared y to the 5th minus 2xy plus 9x squared. And we're dividing that just by one term, a monomial, 3xy squared. So the way that I'm going to go about doing that is I'm going to look over here. The first step to go and divide a rational expression by a monomial is to divide each term in the numerator, so every single term that's on top, by the denominator. So you're going to figure out what your terms are based on what gets separated by either subtraction or addition. So in the numerator right now, we've got 3 terms. We've got one term here, second term here, and a third term here. So the first thing that I want us to do is to just go and individually divide each of those terms by the denominator. For example, I'm going to start with taking 3x squared y to the 5th and dividing it by 3xy squared. So I'm going to write that here. I've got 3x squared y to the 5th. I'm going to divide that by 3xy squared. Then this next one, I'm going to keep the same sign. So if I'm looking here, I'm going to keep that same sign of subtraction. But I'm going to take the second term and divide it by the denominator. So we're going to have 2xy divided by 3xy squared. After that, I've got my very last piece here, which is going to be 9x squared, and divide that by 3x squared, 3xy squared. So plus 9x squared divided by 3xy squared. So there's step 1. Take each term in the numerator and divide it by the denominator. Make sure you keep those operations between the terms in the numerator the same. So we had subtraction and then addition. The last step to solve this problem is to simplify. So now you're going to just simplify each of those individual pieces. So looking at this first piece right here, I'm just going to go and simplify that. So this is back to the very first thing that we learned in this unit of just simplifying a rational expression. Let's start with those coefficients, 3 over 3. That's just going to simplify to 1. So I'm not going to really need to worry about writing that 1 in my final simplification. You can, but you don't have to. Then I've got x squared divided by x. Remember, if I come over to the side here, my exponent rules tell me that I can take x to the power of 2 and subtract the power in the denominator. So minus 1, which would leave me with x to the first power. So that means I'm going to have x to the first power in my numerator. And then I'm going to look at y to the 5th divided by y squared. Remember that my exponent rules tell me I can take y to the power of 5 minus 2 equals, you should get y cubed. So y cubed is going to go and sit on top of this fraction, or in the numerator. We're not going to have anything in the denominator, so you can actually just leave it like that. You don't particularly need the fraction bar anymore. So you can go and remove that. You could just leave it as xy cubed. So now let's go to the second piece. I'm going to take that sign down, so subtraction, and now I'm going to simplify the second piece. 2 over 3, I can't reduce that anymore, so I'm going to leave that as 2 over 3. What's going to happen to x divided by x? Those are going to cancel, and that will simplify to just 1. And then the last piece that I'm looking at is y divided by y squared. Remember, this would be like saying y to the first power minus 2 equals y to the negative 1. Who remembers what you do when you have a negative exponent? Is it happy where it's at in the numerator? No, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring that y to the denominator, and you can then make that a positive 1 exponent. Again, you don't need to keep that 1 there, so you could remove that 1 from the denominator, and that would be a-okay. So there's the second piece. Now we're going to look at this third piece right here. So if we go to simplify this, we've got 9 over 3, or 9 divided by 3. What does that simplify to? That's going to simplify to 3. And then I've got an x squared divided by x, which again, that's the same thing as saying x to the power of 2 minus 1 equals x. So you just got an x in that numerator. And then I've got y squared right here in the denominator, but there is no y in the numerator, so I don't have to worry about simplifying that, and I can just bring that y squared to the denominator. So here is what your final answer would be. I'll make the screen bigger so you can see everything now. So we're looking at dividing a rational expression by a monomial, which means you're taking a polynomial in the numerator and you are dividing it by just one term. So the first step in that is to take each of those terms in the numerator and divide it by that term in the denominator. So divide it by that term on bottom. And then you're just going to go individually apply the skill of simplifying a rational expression. And then you're going to go and simplify each of those. Keep the signs the same in between each of those pieces. So we had subtraction and we had addition. And then you will get to your final answer.